friends, and welcome back to our peaceful haven. Today I am in my kitchen, and most of this video, or all of this video actually, it's going to be in my kitchen. I have lots of things to do today. I have a whole checklist of things that I would like to get done. By the end of the video, you'll see that I don't quite get it all done, but that's okay because there's always later. I do my best, I'm staying busy, but sometimes you just can't get it all done, and that's okay. A list is to help you stay focused, but it doesn't mean that you have to check them all off. I'm going to get some kimchi started. I am just using regular cabbage for this. I chop it up and then I will get it into a bowl with salt and let it sit for a little while just to release some of the natural juices and water from the cabbage, and then you'll see me mix together the spices later. I will start a new batch of kimchi whenever I'm on my last batch from previous times of making it. So whenever I have my last jar that we're starting to eat on, I will start a new batch of kimchi or sauerkraut. This just happens to be kimchi that I'm making this time, and it's not the correct way to make it probably. It doesn't have all of the right spices, but it's how I like it. It's not too spicy, it's kind of tangy and sour, a little bit of that fishiness that you get with kimchi, but I would say this is probably more like sauerkraut than real kimchi, so don't give me a hard time. My husband and I are really the only ones that eat this, so we just make it to our preference. It's great for your tummies if you need like a probiotic. Sauerkraut and kimchi are fantastic. Plus, it's just good on everything. I like it on eggs in particular. I eat it in the morning. I'll get a tablespoon and eat it with my eggs for breakfast. It's good on tacos. Honestly, it's good with anything. A baked potato. We also love to have something called kimchi French fries. And I'll take French fries and cook them, and then we'll top it with steak that has been marinated and seasoned with some soy sauce and other spices. And then you'll put your kimchi on top, and then we make a yummy spicy mayonnaise. That is delicious and for another day. But here I am showing my list of the things I would like to get done, and we'll see how far we get. Ask anybody that knows me. I love to make a good list. I will make tons of lists before we go out of town. I make lists for the week. I make lists for the weekend. It just helps my mind to be able to organize and prepare and plan, and then not waste too much of my day getting distracted thinking, okay, well, what can I do now? So what I like to do when I make my lists or when I meal plan is I want to choose things that I can prep things ahead of time together. So here I am prepping these carrots. I'm getting them grated, and this will serve for two different things. It's to go in my morning glory muffins, and then it's also going to go in my kimchi. So knock it out of the park with just one time in the food processor, and we're good to go. You guys, for real, I don't measure anything. There are certain things that I will measure if I'm following a recipe, but it's why I don't follow a recipe very often. I would much rather just wing it. Here again, all I'm just doing is squeezing the cabbage and the carrots together with the salt, and it will release the water, so that way whenever you put this into your container to ferment, you don't have to add any extra water. You'll have all of the juice that you need along with your seasonings that you put in there. So that's what I'm doing here, is just squeezing this, and then I'm going to let it sit for a little while I prep something else. One thing I really like to do is to make some sort of dessert that can also be breakfast in the morning. My kids will eat us out of house and home if I let them, so what I need to do is pare back some mornings and just do something simple, not only for budget's sake but also for my sake. I don't like to get up every single morning and fix breakfast. If I have something that I can do for dessert that will also serve as breakfast, that's like a double check in my book. So today I'm going to make some morning glory muffins that have lots of fruits and vegetables and nutrition in them that will serve as a dessert this evening after supper, and then breakfast in the morning. These muffins are very forgiving in that you can add whatever additions that you would like. You can put cranberries, raisins, nuts, flaxseed, chia seeds, anything that you can think of, coconut. You can put all of that stuff in there to whatever your heart's desire. And then your spices as well. I think I did cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, cardamom maybe. Honestly, I don't remember. But I'll try to find the recipe and post it below. One tip for when you're baking and you're adding all of these spices into this is that if you will mix all of your dry ingredients together really well, it's less mixing that you have to do once you add your wet ingredients, because once you add the wet to the dry, your baking powder, baking soda, eggs, all of that stuff starts to react, and you want to get it into the oven as fast as possible and mix it the least amount that you can so that you have nice, tender, fluffy muffins or biscuits, whatever it is you're making. Looking at my eggs, it makes me want to share that we ferment our chicken food, and ever since we've been doing that, our eggs have been so orange and nutritious and delicious, and we've also been getting way more eggs. Okay, the next tip for these muffins is you can use whatever sweetener you would like to use. I'm using date syrup, maple syrup, honey, and applesauce. So you can use regular sugar, whatever makes your heart happy. I just don't like to use all of one thing in one recipe and use up all of my maple syrup or whatever. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm also adding coconut oil as my oil, and you can use whatever oil you want to use. The zest of a lemon or an orange. I find the orange to be absolutely fantastic. The orange juice really adds an extra depth of flavor that perhaps the lemon juice wouldn't do. But if you were in a pinch and didn't have an orange, you can use the lemon juice. In fact, I didn't even know I was going to make these. I just happened to have an orange, and so there you have it. When I was purging my house and I was going through all of my utensils, I really wanted to have one of these juicers that are vintage, and so I finally found one at the thrift store, and I got rid of my other one because this one works so much better. It's pretty, it's vintage, there's no paint on it that you don't know what it's made out of, so go get yourself one of these juicers. They're so much better. Okay, and another tip for those of you who eat biblically clean, be sure that your vanilla extract is real vanilla extract and it's not imitation, and it does not have any sort of natural flavors. Go look it up and you can thank me later. Once again, you want to be sure that all of this is mixed well before you add the wet and the dry together. And that way when you pour it in, you can do as little mixing as possible. He made 12 muffins, and then what I had left over I just poured into a baking dish and made it like a casserole for dessert. This is the easiest way to grate ginger for your kimchi. Trying to grate it by hand is not very easy. You'll end up with a big clump, so just go ahead and throw it in your food processor and you'll be ready to go. Now it's ready. Recently bought into a third of a cow, so I had some roast that was left over from the previous night's dinner and added it to some noodles and beef stock, and lunch was ready. For my seasonings for my kimchi, I did some coconut aminos and some fish sauce. And then in this small little reused container here, I have some peppers from our garden that we ground up and just added to this container. It's super spicy. I also put some of the applesauce that we had canned in 2022 for some sweetness, and then also some garlic chili sauce, which is nice and spicy. So you can adjust that to your palate however you like it. It could be much spicier. Don't forget that with the ginger in the kimchi, it already adds some spiciness, so that's why I went with the level of heat that we did. You can always add more. I'm using my vintage fermenting crock, and I just put all of my cabbage in there and start to tamp it down with this wooden tamper. You can do it in a jar with a fermentation lid. There's so many different ways that you can ferment sauerkraut and kimchi. This is just what has worked for me. I don't have to pour in any extra liquid. I put the lid on top. I set it on top of a plate because this will bubble and it will spill juices out the top depending on how full you put your jar. This jar holds about a nice size head of cabbage. And so I push it down in there, put it on top of that plate to catch any juices. I lift it up every now and then to check it. In about 4 days to a week, I open the lid, smell it, give it a little taste, and see if it has fermented enough for my liking. Typically the fish sauce will sort of start to take over for a little bit, and so I let it go just a little bit longer and it balances out nicely. So just let it sit however long you like for the flavor that you like. It's trial and error. You can't really go wrong, except for if you don't let it sit long enough, it just doesn't have a nice tangy punch to it like you want with your kimchi or your sauerkraut. This is the downside to a long list of things to do in the kitchen. Lots and lots of dishes. I should have started dishes sooner and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but we'll figure it out. Most of this is going to go into the dishwasher. I've just got to move some things to get that started. I don't know about y'all, but dishes really are probably my least favorite chore, but it feels really good to get it done. Typically my children will help do the dishes. My kids, it was my oldest two in the house that were doing the dishes, and then my daughter decided that she wanted to trade and start taking over some of these chores. Now I don't know if she's so happy that she took that on. She keeps telling me to give it back to him. And I said, wait babe, you decided that you wanted to take it from him. So yeah, needless to say, I help them out a good bit when I can, but it is their chore. But this was all my mess this morning, so I'm taking care of getting this done and getting it done quickly and efficiently so that I can keep going on and getting things done and checked off my list. This job has been given to me to do. Therefore, it's a gift. Therefore, it is a privilege. Therefore, it is an offering I make to Yahusha. Therefore, it is to be done gladly if it is to be done for Him. Here, not somewhere else, I may learn Yah's ways. In this job, not in some other. Yah looks for faithfulness. This quote from Elizabeth Elliot really speaks to me because for so much of my life I have gone against what is truly the Father's design for us as women and wives and mothers. You know, not all of us will bear children. Some of us won't even get married, right? But we still have a responsibility to take care of our home, take care of the things that He has entrusted us with. And for me personally, He has given me a husband, and He has given me lots of children and grandchildren, and for that I'm so thankful, I'm so grateful, and I feel very blessed, and I don't want to take advantage of that blessing anymore. I have for way too long in my life. I worked for many years outside the home, and then when we started having children, I started to realize how much I really just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and teach my kids and do all of the things that, you know, are entailed with homemaking and child rearing, all of that. I knew I wanted to be a mom at a really young age. Even as a little girl, I was always in the nursery at church. I wanted to take care of all of the babies, and I knew even as a teenager and a young adult, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to have my own home and my own family. And then somewhere along the way, I got kind of lost. I got kind of lost in myself and the traumas that I had been through and the choices that I had made, the consequences of my choices. And, you know, just recently, probably in the past 5 or 6 years, have I really started to appreciate where I am, where the Father has me, the gifts that He has given me, and the calling that I have as a homemaker, as a wife, as a mother. And I don't take it lightly. I don't want to take it for granted that I get to be here in my home doing these things for the glory of Yah, to bring glory to His name, so that my children will learn and understand the goodness and the simplicity of living a good, honest, fulfilling life. It's not about climbing a ladder. It's not about, you know, things that are just really aren't important. It's about making disciples. And for us mothers, our disciple making first begins in the home, and it begins with these little ones who look up to us to love them and care for them and provide them food, to provide them comfort and nourishment. And my goodness, I have failed so many times. I have failed so often, and thank Yah for his mercy and his grace that he has lifted me up, he has set me on solid ground, and he has opened my eyes to see how beautiful and how fleeting this time is. And I just wanted to share that because for whoever out there needs to hear it, I feel like it's somebody who needs to be reminded that every day is an opportunity to wake up and to serve someone else and to love your neighbor as yourself and to love the Creator who has given us breath in our lungs and a life to live. And let's live it abundantly. Let's do it for his glory and that others may know him through our actions, even if, quote, even if it's just our children. They're the ones who are the most important. So mamas, get in there, do the hard work, show them what it looks like to be a hard worker in your home, to not be lazy, to not be complacent, and to love them and show them what it looks like to love your spouse, to love your husband, to love your home, and to take care of those things and to nourish it. And in that, you will be fulfilled. You will be greatly blessed, and you will have great purpose. While you're making disciples and being mom and being wife and doing all the things, it's also okay to take time for yourself, to rest, relax, and to get in his word, do what you need to do to stay fulfilled in a way that gives you energy. He is our fulfillment. He is who continually makes us go on, but we also have to be sure that we're doing our part in reading his word, that we are feeding ourselves healthy food and taking time to rest our minds. And I think that that's something that the world can pervert and that we can easily put ourselves on the throne and make ourselves most important. I've been there too. You want to have the whole day. You want to go get the pedicure or whatever. And you know what? Those things aren't bad. They're not wrong. But we just have to check ourselves. We have to check our hearts and our intentions to be sure that what we're doing is not self-serving and that we don't think more highly of ourselves than we ought to, right? Our kids probably want those things as well. And we have to be sure that we give them time and space, quiet time, and then we also give that to ourselves so that we can be energized to keep our day going and to be sure that our attitudes are in the right spot. So just take a moment to rest, adjust, reflect, do whatever you need to do. Here I'm going to read some scripture, and it's just, that's kind of what you got to do sometimes. Some days are you get it done early before the kids rise out of bed, and then some days it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's okay. Just be sure that you get in the Word and that you are filled with the words of the Most High. Here I'm reading John 14, so I'm going to read it for you out loud, and then I also suggest that you go read it yourself. So starting in verse 15, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, so he may be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it does not behold him or know him. You know him, because he abides with you. I will not abandon you as orphans. I will come to you. In a little while, the world will no longer behold me, but you will behold me, because I live, and you also will live. In that day you will know that I am in the Father, you are in me, and I am in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. He who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and reveal myself to him. Verse 23, and Yahusha answered him and said, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling with him. He who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. These things I've spoken to you while dwelling with you, but the Helper, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of everything that I said to you. Shalom I leave you. My shalom I give to you, but not as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled or afraid. You've heard me say, I'm going away and I'm coming back to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice that I'm going to the Father, because the Father is greater than I. I have told you now, before it happens, so that when it happens, you may believe. I will not talk with you much longer, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he has nothing on me. But in order that the world may know that I love the Father, I do exactly as the Father commanded me. You know, I always find it interesting when I go back and edit these videos and I find little nuggets like that, that's the passage I was reading and how it even applies to my life today. It's pretty special. But that last verse really stands out to me because, you know, it's kind of the crux of what my family believes, that what Yahusha did, our Messiah and Savior, was that he did the commands of the Father. He didn't do anything of his own power. He didn't say any of his own words. He said and did only what the Father required of him. And that's why we aim to do what we do every day, by keeping his commandments. Well, that's it, friends. That's all I was able to get done today. As you can see, there's like 4 more things on my list that's just going to have to wait till later. For now, I'm going to play a game with my daughter and finish my Azure list and pick it back up sometime soon. I hope that you all have a blessed day. I hope that something that I have said here has helped you, has encouraged you, lifted up your heart, and I pray that you'll come back and visit again.
Shalom from our home to yours.